Today on the Q agenda, the Ohio bill that would criminalize doctors for treating transgender youth, and that is just one of the many bills the right is proposing.
And Queer Eye OG actor Jay Rodriguez is here to chat at the table with us about a bunch of new projects he's working on, surprises.
And Emmy winner, entertainment journalist Victoria Recaño is here to talk about being an ally and the longevity of being in the entertainment industry. All that and more coming up on
The Q Agenda.
Under the so-called Protect Vulnerable Children Act, physicians could be charged with third-degree felony for attempting therapeutic or surgical procedures intended to alter the gender of some under the age of 18. Parents could also sue doctors who provide such treatment to their children. So let's break this down.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
Oof,
let's
this
start
is
with
a big one.
Let's start with the name. How misguided that name is, how purposely misleading it is. The Vulnerable Children Act, which means there's vulnerable children that they're like trying to save from something disastrous.
And I'm sorry, any child who knows their identity and is willing to speak up for it and combat the world for their self and their identity and love, that is not a vulnerable child.
And with children, I think people are so misinformed on what the process is like. It's not like they immediately go in, and please correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, but as far as I understand, it's a long process where before you get into like any kind of medication or any kind of hormones or anything, correct?
It is typically state by state. I will tell you that the majority of the doctors, if not all of them in the U.S. at least, will not perform gender confirmation surgery on anybody under the age of 18. Trans men, trans boys, they can get their top surgery before the age of 18, I'm pretty sure at least. But in terms of anybody under the 18, that's under 18, whether you're under the age of 18 or not, you have to see a therapist for a certain amount of time. You have to see more than one to be approved for the surgery. You have to have been on hormones for a certain amount of time. You know, people aren't just performing these surgeries just for the heck of it.
Like waking up, oh, that's what your child wants. He wanted to be Superman yesterday. Today he wants to be transgender. Jesus, sure, no, that's not how it works, and that's how these bigots, which is the only thing I can call them, that's how they think it works.
I love it when, particularly when they were with this government, like the reproductive limitations and everything, when you see these pictures of like all these, like, you know, white men making these decisions for people, and they have no clue. I mean, yes, I certainly don't know what it feels like, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that these people have no idea what it is.
Let me just say this, and I'm going to be very real right now. These are the white Republican men who have never had a transgender person in their life who they've actually tried to get to know. However, they're the same ones who will hire transgender sex workers and cheat on their wives with transgender sex workers and then try to take those rights away from those sex workers.
Wow, yeah, and they're the same Republican legislators that they will rally for small government, but then they will try to impose on a woman's right to choose.
Absolutely.
So, and now they're imposing on a right for parents to know their children with a clinical team of doctors, including the American Pediatrics Association and everyone who's not them. It's just crazy to me that they
so
keep
something like this bill is like, then this white man, like, and again, cannot group all white men, but a lot of them are. It's like do they think they're doctors? What qualifies them to even try to implement any of these rules?
Can we talk about what he just said? I think that's an exciting thing.
Yes.
When you said not all white men, I just want to talk to you about this because white men are the only people who we have to qualify when we are saying not everybody. You know what I mean? Here's why. Cis white men are in control of this whole system, right? And so they're, as such, are used to being treated as individuals and judged as individuals. So that's why there's this instinct that if we say white men need to stop, they want to go, not all white men. Well, we ain't talking about all white men. We're talking about the structural power of white men.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, but I love that you said that because it's such an interesting thing that people don't realize. And we as advocates and as activists, we do it all the time because we want to take care of egos, but we don't always have to do that. You know what I mean?
Love, and the wording was fantastic.
No, I'm kidding. I'm not an angry lesbian.
No, you were absolutely right, and thank you. No, I love that you said that. You're absolutely, because otherwise tomorrow we'll get like 700 messages of like hate mail and things like that. Is how dare you said this?
But I think the other issue is just the fact that these men are, trying to push this so hard. Just discussion alone makes trans youth depressed. It makes them feel like they're not valid. It makes them feel like they are doing something wrong. Their actions are what drive trans youth to commit suicide.
Which makes you more vulnerable than you were.
Well,
Yeah,
imagine.
that's
So
true.
much. I mean, this could go on for hours. You know, we could talk so much about this.
And we're going to wrap this up for now. We're going to pick it up again in another episode. But when we come back, we have Jay Rodriguez, who is joining us at the table.
He is a Queer Eye OG, a Broadway star, a TV star, an advocate to equality, and an Emmy winner. So what can't Jay Rodriguez do? Please welcome to the show the wonderful Jay Rodriguez.
It's like a huge build up, a lot of expectation. Hi, thank you for
I
having
mean,
me.
but let's
you
be
for being
serious.
here. Pero
You
like-
turn your TV on, there's Jay Rodriguez.
I've done a little bit on everything, and I am that guy who like pops up. But usually, I don't know how to tell people. I just put it on social media, and then people get mad when they're like, "You didn't tell me you were on Grey's Anatomy or whatever," and I'm like,
Yeah.
I posted it.
No, and it's amazing to see your crossover success too,
Yeah.
because not only have you done unscripted or reality
Yeah.
programming, you've done, you're doing the whole thing.
But
How's your
even
career?
at an era when I moved here, actually one of my first shows when I moved here was working with Enrique in the non-scripted space, doing a travel show about Miami. But when I moved here, they were like, listen, man, you got to pick a lane.
Yeah.
And we don't think, based on the fact you did reality, you'll ever be able to cross over.
That's the
Meanwhile, I
thing.
came from acting. And it was like, I erased it. So I literally took Queer Eye off my resume, had to start from scratch.
Wow.
Interestingly enough, Ryan Murphy kind of gave me my first like good scripted role on Nip Tuck. I had to audition. Like Queer Eye never really afforded me the, oh, you did that, so we'll just give you this acting part.
Right. Oh,
That
yeah.
never happened.
No,
In
no.
fact, it almost made it harder that people want you to prove yourself.
Right.
And I was more than happy to do that. Yeah.
And I honestly have to be, because I know you lowball yourself on the fact that I think Jay should also open himself to like telenovelas. His Spanish is
listen.
great, and the guy, he refuses to speak Spanish.
So this is what I've done now. I do a cabaret show, and I usually like workshop it in Puerto Vallarta, which is a very gay-friendly beach town in Mexico. And so I like really brushed up my Spanish because I'm a lot like Celine Dion. I test my things out of the country first. So
Okay.
yeah, and then I bring it
works.
here. But I really feel more confident, and I think immersion. Like when I was in Miami with Enrique. It was easier because I had no choice. If you're beige there, they're like, no, sorry, you need to Spanish.
Yeah.
Listen, and when I first met you and you were in Queer Eye and everything, it was like, oh my God, here's Jay. He's Latino, he's out. Things have changed a little bit.
Was even Ricky Martin out at that time? I
No,
don't
he
think
was in the
was.
closet
Yeah,
No,
back
definitely
then.
wasn't.
So tell me a little bit in relation to today. What was it like? Because you were, opening all those doors. You were starting that game of like, have always been out and proud. We met you through Queer Eye, a lot of us. But you were going out and you're being the face of like LGBTQ Latinos.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I turned 40 this year, and I made a lot of promises to myself about my responsibility to be authentically honest about experiences that I really wasn't open about sharing. And this year I have, because I realized my story is not meant to ruffle any feathers or make people feel a certain way, but honesty and transparency is important. So to that point, I left Queer Eye not on the same plane as everyone else. I was the only one who was doing on the show what I didn't do for a living, right? So Queer Eye didn't necessarily, I didn't get the multi-million-dollar endorsement deals because I'll be honest, they weren't passing those out to brown queer boys in 2003 to 2006. And for those who want to push back on that, it was also the beginning of handheld devices, and many business people had Blackberries, of which they clicked reply all. And I saw their comments about me and why certain people brands or management wouldn't want to have me endorse their product because I was a femme, queer, Latino. And so I was not open and comfortable saying that then because whatever, it was a moment.
Yeah.
But we're so far past that, and we have a brand new exciting cast of Queer Eye. We've got a Muslim Indian guy from the UK, Tan Friends.
Yeah.
We have Karamo Brown, African American guy who has a therapeutic background. There's so much diversity in this cast. But it wasn't like that when I was coming up. So I'm glad to see the evolution of it, but we still have a long way to go. And when we talk about the LGBTQ community, it's important to remember that while queer men have certainly found their place, and I think in some some people feel very like I'm very accepted. You know, we are not all free and equal unless all of us are, right? And so I think it's very important to understand that the spectrum is very broad, that if we are not speaking out loud about the number of trans women that are murdered every year, then that is not inclusivity, and that is not, you know, what we all should be. If one person isn't free, then none of us are free.
Absolutely.
Amen.
So what's going on now?
Yeah, so
Yes.
it's been really great because last year was a really busy year for me. Eastsiders on Netflix, great queer show, is in its 4th season. I got to open that, which is fantastic. Had a great guest star on Hulu's Dollface opposite Kat Dennings, and upcoming this April, you'll see me on The Rookie in what I would say would be probably the meatiest role I've ever had to date, in a way that you've never seen me on camera ever before.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Amazing.
Super exciting. I also, is the difference huge between, like, now that you've worked with them before with the Queer Eye Boys? What you
Yeah.
guys, but you know what?
What?
Hold on a second. We got to take a quick break.
Yes, we do. We do have to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more of J. Rodriguez.
And we're back with more of Mr. J. Rodriguez. And we were halfway, I was asking you, it was
Yeah.
like, you know, now that you're working with this guys, how's the difference of the experience and what
Yeah.
you lived and what they're like? Because now, you know, they have the social media platforms, they have the...
Yeah, we just did Family Feud. It was the OG Queer Eye versus the new school Queer Eye, and that'll air this summer. And it was an incredible experience just for, and I said this on the show, I hope it makes it to air, but growing up, I would have killed for that, man, to see that many queer people on one stage under the caption of family.
Right.
Because when you are queer, and especially, you know, my backstory, getting kicked out of my house and everything, for me, it's like we so heavily rely on our family of choice. And I think it was so incredible for them to honor that. And I also said, I don't see it as two separate families. To me, it's like there's 10 Fab 5. You know, we all contribute something differently at different times. For me, the experience is different because sometimes, while I understand that, like, I'm a voice for the community in many areas, I'm also at a very different social slash economic level because I'm an actor, and so I'm jumping from gig to gig, and I don't have the millions of followers on social media that all the new boys do. And my OG cast, there's this show, Queer, I really elevated them in their specific professions. And I kind of, not erased Queer Eye, but erased what I did on it to really pursue my dream of being a storyteller in whatever medium, whether that's acting, hosting, or the radio show I just finished.
Well, but I find it amazing also, it's like a lot of the Queer Eye guys, like they stuck to like what they knew and like
Sure.
their lane, and some of them, like Carson, for example, went on to host RuPaul's Drag Race.
Right, he's got
everything.
an Emmy for that. He's got 2 Emmys now.
Well, but
yeah.
you guys got an Emmy.
Yeah, I have
You
one,
guys
but
got
I'd
an
like a
Emmy.
bookend. Listen, to be honest.
No, but you know, you've been, you did the show with Reba McEntire, Malibu Country,
That
where
was
you were a
actually, to
series
your point,
regular.
I actually became the first man to garner fame off reality to become series regular on network TV with that role.
Yeah.
And that was not an easy one. I had to fight for that because I was out of type for what they wanted on the page, and I was like mad. It was like in the Valley, for those of you who don't know, it was like 45 minutes in traffic on a Friday afternoon. I was bitter because I was like, oh, I'm gonna face all this traffic and I'm wrong for the part. Screw it. I'm gonna make the role queer and Latino.
You did
It was
great.
not in the script.
First of all,
Yeah.
I love Reba,
Yeah.
so I'm hoping you say Reba is awesome.
She's incredible. In fact, everything on set trickles down from who's ever number one on the call sheet.
Right.
And between her and Lily Tomlin, it was like the people who've earned the right to be divas are the least diva,
Right.
like, out of everyone.
What a
They
great
were
lesson.
incredible. It was like honestly receiving a warm hug every day, physically, but also emotionally getting to
Well,
work.
and you died for Lily Tomlin. He was on Grace and Frankie with
Yeah.
Lily Tomlin as
Oh,
well.
Yeah, and Lily and I on Malibu Country, which you can watch on the ABC app now. We're kind of like Jack and Karen. Like we got into all kinds of trouble together.
Yeah,
Like I ended
yeah.
up like she cooks pot brownies, and I just thought they were regular ones. And I had like 6, and then we go to a PTA meeting. It's a lot of fun. Well, first of all, let me just say I'm so proud of you guys here on the Queer Agenda. I think that what you are doing here is so impactful and important. And I'm just big fans of the show. And congratulations on all your successes, your win, your nominations, all of it. I'm really excited to see where you continue to take the brand.
Oh my gosh, and
Well-
speaking of continuing, sorry, to take the brand.
I was just going to say you played a big part in us getting to where we are now.
Well, at the pod, yeah,
That too.
I'm happy to.
Absolutely.
I just love when we come together and align as a community.
Yeah.
And it's so important. Yeah.
Were you surprised when Queer Eye came back,
I
and were
tell
you
you-
surprised about the direction they took it? Because it is a
Yes.
different show.
Can I tell you how I put my foot in my mouth as a Latino that talks a lot? The call comes. I'm in Puerto Vallarta, again, Celine Dion. So I'm in PV, and I'm practicing my show, and I see an unknown caller, and I'm like, hey, and they're like, hey, Jay, it's the Queer Eye producers. This is the era of the reboots, like 2
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I'm getting all flustered, and I go outside, I put them on speaker, and I'm like, hey, and I can hear they're on speakerphone, like in a conference room. Now, when my agent and manager call me, and that's an offer. So it's like, something's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
they're like, Jay, we've got great news. We're bringing Queer Eye back. Now, there wasn't even a hair of a breath in his voice, and I dove right in. I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Because honestly, now in my 30s, I feel like I have a lot more to offer. I stuck my foot in it, and then they were like, with an all-new, exciting, dynamic cast. And I was like,
I would have been like, so why are you calling me?
right. They
why
wanted
were
to
they
let us
calling you?
know so that we could be prepared when the media took the story and moved it forward. But I will say, you know, our show was created by a guy named Dave Collins, who's incredible, and his partner and their straight best friend. And then they all moved to Los Angeles after season 1, and we're kind of directing from on high. But we really were run by 3 women, Linda Lee, Lynn Sadowski, and Donna McCletchy, and they were exceptional in terms of crafting our stories and being our point people. This new version of the show, they had our show as a reference where we were just kind of flying in the dark, and we led with comedy. We didn't anticipate it being a tearjerker.
Right.
So the first time a guy cried at the end, we thought he was kidding. Because we weren't prepared. We didn't know that that was going to happen.
Yeah.
What we found is when you just communicate with someone who's different and just come from the heart, all of a sudden, men had never experienced guys just, I don't want nothing from you, I'm just here to help. And all of a sudden they'd be like, and they would get so emotional, you know? And I always say, like, listen, I didn't make millions off of Queer Eye, but if I can equal the times that people stopped me at airports with tears in their eyes and said things like, because of you, my uncle could come out. Because of you, I was able to come out. Because of you, I saw that I could have a career in entertainment and be brown and be queer and be glittery. But you know, it's like, don't ever change who you are, because while people might have called you queer in a bad way in high school, there are people like me who've grown into it, who really embrace it. And now it's like, oh my God, that's the queer guy.
And it's the
it's
coolest
the
thing about you.
coolest thing.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you,
today. We
guys.
just want to thank Jay for stopping by. And for more on him, follow him at Jay Rodriguez. And we will be back with the beautiful Victoria Recaño. Now, some of her credits include being the face of Entertainment Tonight, The Insider, and currently Inside Edition. And not only that, she's an Emmy winner and an LGBTQ community advocate. Here to talk with us today about her journey through entertainment, we want to welcome Victoria Recaño.
Wow, that was a big welcome. Thank you.
We try to go big.
Good job.
Welcome to the show. Thank you. It's a lot of pressure because you're right here.
I know,
I'm
I'm-
the pro.
Right, I'm over here like,
They got me from the back alley and put me in here, so I just
Well, everything you said sort of started to stress me out a little bit. I'm like, all right.
Babe, we're so excited to have you here
yes.
for so many reasons, particularly because you're an ethnic woman who has been covering entertainment news for a long time. You've been on the big ones with Entertainment Tonight, with you started The Insider. Now, with going back to Inside Edition, what has been the journey like, being ethnic and being on those carpets and being in those rooms and being on those sound stages with these huge celebrities and influencers?
I mean, it's been an amazing journey, and it's so far. I mean, listen, I'm still on it, so you know, it's incredible. There's been so many changes, though, with social media,
Right.
as you guys understand, and there's been a learning curve for me in trying to sort of incorporate all of the things that need to be incorporated in order to share the story and in order to, you know, send the message, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Absolutely makes sense. And you've seen the progression. You were just at the Oscars and you cover all of them. But I want to know about representation, particularly with the LGBTQ community. When you first started, I imagine like the stories were different. Now when you have like a Billy Porter, or you have, you know, the big, like even with like somebody like a Gaga, you can talk about all LGBT. How is that different?
It's a beautiful thing. Now it's really changed so much, and I think everyone embraces the community in a very special way. Even my kids. It's so cute because one of my kids says, "Oh, Jordan's so lucky because he has lots of dads. And I thought, wait a minute, define lots of dads. How many dads is that? He's like, he has 2. And I was like,
Okay.
wow. I know, I was like, and, but I just thought, I was thinking, wow, that's cool. Even, at such a young age, I think all around all of us, and even especially, when they're that little and they're really starting to understand the world, it's so important for them to recognize it and to appreciate.
So I think the whole, building on that, the whole world right now is in this moment of like authenticity, which I think some people might think is what's the word, is the opposite, let's say, of red carpet hosting. Because there's so much of red carpet hosting that has been traditionally a little bit surface. What are you wearing? Tell us about it. So actually, that serves a purpose too, because people don't want to always be thinking, deeply as well. But I did notice that there's more. There's more chance for authentic conversation on the carpet. Do you find that that's true?
I do actually. It's sort of like things are melding together in a way, because like I look at like Billie Eilish, and she looked amazing. She was decked out in Chanel, and her hair. My mom or my daughter says, Mom, what color was her hair? Tell me, was it still green? I'm like, yeah. But it's just one of those things where I think people feel a lot more able to be open and really just express themselves. Who would have ever thought, okay, you're gonna wear this, you're gonna be all decked out in Chanel with green hair.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because obviously she's making a statement, and there's something
that's
there.
a statement.
Yeah.
Just hitting back on the Oscars really quick, I was reading a story where the headline was about Cynthia Erivo making time for this African American journalist, and that the article went into saying how a lot of people tend to ignore either journalists of color or journalists of smaller media outlets. Do you find that still an issue?
I don't necessarily find that an issue, and the reason being is that I think almost even the opposite. I feel as if a lot of times people want to like support something smaller, a smaller venue, and also maybe also want to support people of diverse, ethnicity.
Right.
I have noticed that as a change.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, I'm going to stand back on the end of the line and sometimes.
We want to thank Victoria for joining us. You can follow her at Victoria Recaño and look for her on Inside Edition. Don't forget to visit us at latv.com, and we will see you soon next time right here on The Q Agenda.